All right. Hello, we of Action, Virginia, WOFA. We are here to talk about the big news of the day that House Republicans have officially passed Trump's big tax bill that is going to have devastating consequences for those on Medicaid and SNAP, which is a food assistance program. And it will greatly benefit those at the top. I mean, the bottom line up front, is that this bill is going to heavily benefit multi-billionaires, multi-millionaires, literally the richest people on planet Earth, and it's going to hurt hardworking Americans who, are on Medicaid or on SNAP or on student aid, all of these other programs, and we'll get into that later in the video. I just want to talk about the big, bottom line, what's actually happening, who might be losing their health care, food assistance. A nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimates 8.6 million fewer people would have health care. 8.6 million. And on top of that, 3 million less people a month would have SNAP, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, food stamps benefits with the proposed changes in this law, in this so-called One Big Beautiful Bill. To me, there's nothing beautiful about cutting SNAP and Medicaid, taking food from the mouths of literal children, actual babies, just ripping food out of their mouths, ripping food out of the refrigerators of veterans, seniors, and people in need. There's nothing beautiful about that. And there's nothing beautiful about ripping healthcare coverage away from millions and millions of Americans. So what are some of the good things? It can't all be bad, Chris, right? There's got to be some good things in this bill. Well, I'd argue that no tax on tips is a good policy, something that's supported on a broad bipartisan basis. I mean, it was a unanimous vote, 100-0, on a bill that would generate no tax on, I believe it was just cash tips, but no tax on tips. That's fine. It's a bipartisan policy, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. Except in this bill, the One Big Beautiful Bill, it's not exactly no tax on tips. It's not exactly no tax on overtime. As many as 40% of tipped workers, this is the statistic that I wanted to highlight, as many as 40% of tipped workers already don't make enough money to have to pay federal income tax on any of their earnings. So, the thing is, what would help workers who don't even meet the bare minimum requirement to pay taxes? What would help? Expanding things like the earned income tax credit to maybe give them a fully refundable tax credit that's advanceable to them in the form of a, cash payment or deposit payment into their bank accounts, where it helps them get ahead. Things like the child tax credit and earned income tax credit, expanding those and ensuring they're available in workers' bank accounts and they're completely advanceable, depositable into their accounts, fully refundable. That would help workers who are very low income and do not make enough to actually pay taxes. Things like no tax on tips does not help them when they do not pay taxes anyways to begin with. You're looking at nearly half of tipped workers don't make enough money to have to pay federal income taxes. So that's that. And I just want to highlight also, again, it's not a total deal where it's no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. This tax exemption would only apply to federal income taxes. So things like payroll taxes, the workers would still have to pay Social Security and Medicare taxes on their income, which is payroll taxes. You would still have to pay, the tax on the Social Security and Medicare side of things, and then you'd also have to pay any state and or local taxes. So they could have made a bill that truly was no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and we mean it. We mean it, that there can't be any state or local taxes. We're going to X out payroll taxes as well. And, we're going to extend it beyond 4 years. That's the other gag of it all. This is only a policy that will last for 4 years. After 4 years, this goes away. I mean, this is not here forever. It's not a permanent no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. It is a slight 4-year deal. So it's really that you will have some tax on overtime, you will have some tax on tips, and it's not even permanent that you'll get sort of this exception. And on top of that, nearly half of tipped workers already don't make enough to pay federal income taxes. What might help them? Actually expanding the earned income tax credit, making it fully refundable, making it advanceable to a direct installment payment to their accounts, maybe in a monthly payment or an annual payment. But that's not what they decided to do. So the one big beautiful bill, it is quite literally over 1,000 pages. So I'm not going to go through the trouble to read you all 1,000 pages, though you can go to congress.gov, search the one big beautiful bill, and you can find and read every single line of this text. I'm not going to do that for you. I'm just going to hit the highlights. And I'll begin with, as you can see, I've highlighted the child tax credit. I've already brought it up in this video. The child tax credit is an amazing policy. I mean, truly, in 2021, when President Joe Biden and congressional Democrats expanded the child tax credit from, $2,000 to $3,600 for children under the age of 6, and to $3,000 for children 6 to 17 years old, and in part with expanding the earned income tax credit and expanding the child independent care tax credit, child poverty in this country was able to be reduced by 46%. And I'll show you that statistic. I do just want to show you that. In 2021, with the expansion to the child tax credit, the earned income tax credit, and the child independent care tax credit, we reduced child poverty in the United States of America in the year 2021. You can look at that. You can look at that very real statistic. The child tax credit is a life-saving policy that brings families out of poverty. Can't stress it enough. Declining 46%. So, and that was under the American Rescue Plan. We talk about, where did these policies come from? It was in the year 2021 when President Joe Biden signed into law the bill that congressional Democrats passed, the American Rescue Plan, which was expanding things like the child tax credit, again, from $2,000 to $3,000 for kids age 6 to 17, and $3,600 for children under the age of 6. This was the year 2021, by the way. I want to highlight that. This was the year 2021 that they did that. And on top of that, they expanded the earned income tax credit, nearly tripled it, $540 to $1,500. And then they expanded the child and dependent care tax credit by, get this, more than 6 times over. Literally increased it from $1,200 to $8,000. Think about that. Child care is insanely high in this country. It is so expensive to care for a child in the United States of America. And that credit in 2020, the child independent care tax credit, was only $1,200. In 2021, you could get up to $8,000. $8,000 towards child care expenses in 2021. I'm just saying those are great policies. And though Joe Biden and congressional Democrats were not able to pass an actual tax bill, they did not get a tax bill out of their 2021-2022 Congress, but they did expand these 3 critical tax credits for workers and families in the American Rescue Plan. And it helped bring children and parents and many, many workers out of literal poverty. But you look at the one big beautiful bill, and they are only expanding the child tax credit by $500, from $2,000 to $2,500. You can see it right here. It's in this line, right here, line that I just highlighted right there. Now, if it reverted back to its prior to 2017 year, it would be $1,000. But right now, the child tax credit sits at, $2,000. That's what it was for the tax year of 2024. So you're talking about 2024 tax year, you got a $2,000 child tax credit. 2025, you're looking at maybe getting a $2,500 child tax credit if this bill passes. That's unacceptable. When in the year of 2021, we expanded the child tax credit to, again, $3,000 for children 6 to 17 and $3,600 for kids under the age of 6. That was 2021. And we're talking about in 2025 when it's even more expensive to care for a kid, when it's even more expensive to live in the United States of America. We're not even touching $3,000. We're talking about $2,500. It's unacceptable. And of course, I'm, again, not going to read through all of, these provisions in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. But I do just want to take a minute to talk about the cuts to Medicaid. It's going to be $625 billion. It's going to be a cut to SNAP of $300 billion. It is going to cut student aid by $351 billion. It is going to ban state-level AI regulation for 10 years. It is going to give Donald Trump the power to censor nonprofits. It is going to steal $50 billion from federal workers. There are so many bad provisions in this 1,000-page bill. And I can't show you this entire bill because it is so big. There are 1,000 pages to this entire bill. And if you want to read it, you can go to congress.gov, search H.R. 1, One Big Beautiful Bill Act, and read all 1,000 pages if you truly want. But I took out the estimates of what the cuts will be, and I took out, sort of the child tax credit and some of these tax credits. By the way, the earned income tax credit is not expanded in the One Big Beautiful Bill. By the way, the child and dependent care tax credit is not expanded in this One Big Beautiful Bill. The child tax credit is slightly expanded, again, by $500. This bill does not deliver for hardworking Americans or our families. It's going to worsen the crisis by, giving into this failed notion of trickle-down economics that fundamentally does not work. If trickle-down economics worked, we would have seen it work sometime over the past 40 years, from Reagan to now. We've only seen the wealth gap increase from the 1980s to now. Between the richest Americans and the poorest Americans, we have seen the wealth gap drastically increase. While billionaires continue to rake in record profit after record profit, we are stuck with a $7.25 minimum wage. Speaking of all of that, Josh Hawley, I'm on his website. He has endorsed a $5,000 child tax credit. He wants to increase the child tax credit from $2,000 to $5,000 per child. And if you'll remember, Vice President Kamala Harris was in favor of increasing the child tax credit to $6,000 for newborn children. And I'm sure she would have happily endorsed a $5,000 child tax credit for children ages 1 to 17. Josh Hawley, I'm on Josh Hawley's literal website, and he is in favor of increasing the child tax credit from $2,000 to $5,000. That is something that is notable. That is something that is important. We need an expanded child tax credit that is serious, not a $500 expansion. We need $3,000 more added to the child tax credit. $5,000 would be adequate. We could work with that. And this is a Republican senator from a red state of Missouri advocating for a pro-worker, pro-family policy. Now, I'm not saying Josh Hawley is just this best, pro-worker, pro-family candidate. I think he has deeply flawed policies. But this is one that is good, that we can agree upon. And it's interesting because in 2024, Missouri voters passed ballot measures for paid sick leave, paid safe leave, and increased their minimum wage to $15 an hour. Missouri is a state that is red. It voted to re-elect Donald Trump. It voted to re-elect their Republican United States Senator, Josh Hawley. But it did not vote for candidates that support the exact same policies they voted for on ballot measures. Missouri voted to increase their minimum wage to $15 an hour, and they voted for paid sick leave and safe leave. These are progressive policies supported by the Democrat Party. Yet, Missouri couldn't vote for the Democrat candidates. And Missouri's not alone, right? Nebraska in 2022 voted to increase their minimum wage to $15 an hour. Nebraska voted for paid sick leave in 2024, overwhelmingly 74% in favor of paid sick leave. Alaska votes to increase their minimum wage to $15 an hour, and they vote for paid sick leave. Overwhelmingly, 57% in Alaska vote to increase their minimum wage and to implement paid sick leave. Florida, 60% vote in favor of increasing their minimum wage to $15 an hour in 2020. You have Florida, Alaska, Nebraska, and yes, Missouri, that have all voted recently in 2020, 2022, or 2024. They've all voted in favor of increasing their minimum wage, implementing paid sick leave, implementing paid safe leave. Not all of them have done all three of those things, but these states have one or the other voted to do these certain things. These are pro-worker policies, pro-family policies, and you don't see any of those policies in the One Big Beautiful Bill. The One Big Beautiful Bill does not increase the minimum wage. It does not implement paid family and medical leave. It does not deliver for hardworking Americans. It gives a giant tax cut to the richest people on planet Earth, literal billionaires, and it cuts Medicaid and SNAP historically, and it does not really deliver on this so-called notion of no tax on tips and no tax on overtime. It's sad, and this is a bill that is going to kick millions of Americans off their health care and food assistance programs. What can we do? You need to call your United States senators and tell them to vote against the One Big Beautiful Bill. You need to show up at protests and rallies in support of protecting Medicaid, protecting SNAP, and to rally against the One Big Beautiful Bill. And yes, we need to organize to win elections again. And that's the work I know we will do, and I hope you'll be a part of. Thanks.